Hey everybody! So today we are going to talk some more about the quincunx or inconjunct aspect in a natal chart. Specifically, somebody had a question about, fucker's loud. Okay. Specifically, somebody had a question about the moon Quincunx Pluto in their chart. Now, I'm not going to read from their chart, but I'm just going to talk kind of generally about what this could mean for you if you happen to have this in your own chart or you're reading for somebody that has this in their chart. A lot of people don't consider, the quincunx is not considered a major aspect. And so a lot of people don't really bring it into play because of that. It's not like it's never talked about, but it just isn't talked about as much as, say, like a square or a trine or whatever. I do consider the quincunx to be a major aspect because the planets involved, like in the quincunx aspect, the two planets involved or multiple planets involved, depending on what's going on in the chart, they're not seeing and feeling one another at the same time. Sometimes you might have a person that they are able to, like in the case of the moon and Pluto, they are able to feel and see Pluto and express it. And they're also able to see and feel and express the moon, but it doesn't happen in tandem. Or you'll wind up with somebody that they might be able to see and feel and express their moon, but Pluto gets neglected. And the same thing, vice versa. Like they might see and feel and express Pluto, but the moon gets neglected. It really depends on what the whole chart looks like as to which way you go with that. Like, okay, let's say somebody had a Cancer rising. In that case, and depending on what the rest of the chart looked like, I might think that moon, because that moon would then be the person's chart ruler, that moon might be the planet that is seen and felt more often. If they had like a Scorpio rising, I might think that Pluto was the planet that was seen and felt more often. Maybe, but again, you'd want to take the whole thing into account. But that's one place that my mind would go, at first anyway. So what can this mean? Because there definitely is an awkwardness, and it's definitely easier when both of these planets in any kind of a quincunx aspect can be integrated together, can be seen and felt at the same time. So when you have, the moon, it's your emotions, it's moods, it's feelings, it's nurturing, it's mothering, it's all of these kinds of things. This is what the moon needs to express. And Pluto is intensity, it is power, it is transformation, it is death and rebirth, it is, magnetism, it's even, there's even like there's even a desire quality to Pluto, especially in a more spiritual sense. Mars is kind of like raw passion, raw desire in a more animalistic way. That's fucking loud too. Whereas Pluto's the higher octave of Mars, so there's more of a spiritual bent to Pluto. Definitely. So the passion and desire, there's going to be more of a spiritual bent to it with Pluto than with Mars. Anyway, so in the moon quincunx Pluto, these things aren't being seen at the same time. Now, this can be difficult because, if you're feeling and seeing and expressing your emotions, depending on what we're talking about here, what areas of life and how and all of that. But if your emotions are being seen and felt and expressed, but they're, say, lacking, or they're not feeling that kind of spiritual passion, spiritual desire, or even power, how and other Plutonian things, how can I feel like this person could feel like their emotions aren't really hitting the mark, right? Even if they can see and feel and express them, there can be like a feeling of them not really hitting the mark with how they express them or what they're expressing and where. And also like an awkwardness to it. They might feel rather awkward about expressing them. Same thing on the other end of things. Let's say the person is seeing and feeling and expressing Pluto, the moon kind of gets left out. So there's power, right? Like maybe they're expressing power, but the emotions aren't being seen and felt. So there again can feel like there's something awkward about the expression of power. it could go this way. Another thing with the moon, Quincunx Pluto, sometimes you can be looking at, and the moon can represent the mother. I don't think it always has to. It definitely represents mothering and nurturing, but I don't think that it always has to express or represent one's actual mother, though it certainly can. I don't think it always does, so I want to be careful when I say this. But I do think that somebody with the moon, Quincunx Pluto, you could be looking at somebody whose perhaps mother maybe didn't see the person's power, or and there's something fucked going on there with that. Or you could be looking at somebody's mother who was more powerful and didn't let the person express their emotions, or made them feel awkward about expressing them. Again, that's not always how this can go, but it certainly could go that way. It certainly could, and depending on if I would go that way with it or not would depend on what else was going on in the chart. But yeah, definitely there will be some sort of awkwardness or some sort of lack of seeing or lack of feeling both planets at the same time. Now this goes without saying, if you feel like one planet is seen more than the other one and felt more than the other one, one of the best things that you can do is try to lean into that planet that you don't think is seen or felt as much. This would just be good advice, right? Just in general. But sometimes that's much harder to do, right? Sometimes that is with the inconjunct or the quincunx aspect, that can be harder to do. So I would look at the midpoint. I'm a huge fan of midpoints, of working with midpoints, of fucking with midpoints. And I think they're really important with the quincunx aspect, because in the case of this aspect, like with the square aspect, I also use them with the square aspect too, right? But the planets in a square aspect, they can both see and feel. There's tension there, but they're aware that one another are there. they're very aware of it. Whereas, generally speaking, unless one of the planets is in, say, like the 12th house, maybe it wouldn't be as aware, but you get my point. Whereas with the quincunx aspect, there's an awkwardness. Those planets are not seeing and feeling one another. So the midpoint feels even more important here to work with. I will put an example in the description box below, like a written out example of how you do this, in case anybody doesn't know and wants to check it out. But the place in the chart where the midpoint falls by sign and house can tell you what area of life or where. This, like in the case of the moon in conjunct Pluto, where this could be seen and felt. And then by sign could tell you how it could be seen and felt. Now, I would also implement degree theory here, probably. If the planet didn't, if the midpoint didn't make any conjunctions to natal planets or a major angle or Chiron or whatever, degree theory is a cool thing to bring into play. Like, let's say the midpoint between the moon and Pluto happened to be like at 16 degrees something. This might give like a Cancer undercurrent to this midpoint, since 16 degrees is a Cancer degree. And then I would also look at the house and the sign that this is going on in. And then if the midpoint happens to be conjunct a natal planet or a major angle or Chiron or something, Chiron, the major angle, or the planet operate as like a vehicle for this midpoint to function through, which makes this planet or this planet or this point or Chiron very, very, very important to this quincunx aspect being seen and felt. So understanding that planet is really super fucking important. But it's really nice when you do see something like that. It's really nice because the planet actually gives you a tangible vehicle to work through. But yeah, I hope this helped. Another thing with the moon, Quincunx Pluto, the person, you could be looking at emotional, there could be emotional obsessions that don't always make a lot of sense to the person. So kind of getting a handle on those is important. And again, I would work with the midpoint to do that. But because Pluto can be rather obsessive, there can definitely be, there definitely can't, doesn't have to go this way, but there definitely can be stuff like this going on. That when they are gotten to the bottom of, it generally makes one's emotional life easier. And I feel like this could be the case even if the moon is the planet that isn't seen or felt, or is seen and felt. I'm gonna get going because this guy has been fucking with this wood shit all weekend, on and off. I don't even know what he's doing. Not that it's my business, but it's loud as fuck. I kind of wish he'd stop. Anyway, I will put where you can find me below in the description box, and I will see you all later.